Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. Hi, Liz. How's
Hi,
it going?
Bonds. Happy early Monday to you.
Happy early Monday. I know, right? Oh, I'm so happy to see everyone. It's kind of fun meeting on Monday morning because,
Start
just
of the
had the
week.
weekend and
I'm enjoying it too. Yeah.
it's so nice. Oh, so welcome everyone from around the globe. We're so excited to just have you and see you, and really excited to talk about emotions and feelings today. And last week we talked about sort of identity and separating those out from emotions. And so, it was just a really neat discussion, and something that Liz and I have been talking a lot about as we've been using our own discernment to, sort through these amazing, beautiful bodies of ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for all of your comments and contributions. We've been, some folks that have watched the replay we've just heard from other folks in the background that have just, talked about this, that understanding of the identity versus the emotion and how hard it can be. Right. So if you guys experienced that last week as well, or if you didn't, go back and watch that. We were with you on that one.
I kind of kept my list here so I could keep going this week just with everything we were doing last week. But if you weren't here for last week, I'll just do like a really quick recap, and you can of course go back and watch what happened last week as well. But we were talking about just identity, and so we made a list, right, of all the things that we considered were our identity, like the things that just, are us, right? Mm-hmm. And as we go through those lists of identity, a lot of emotions end up on that list. So personally for me, I had like mother, teacher, friend, anxious person, coworker, worrier. And when we can sit down and look at that list and pull out the emotions like anxiety and worry, right, and put them on a separate list, it's so good just to A, see that in writing, and B, be able to really bring that from a head to heart to body space of knowing that anxiety and worry don't define who I am as a person, right? Mm-hmm. And that identity really is, I was thinking about it too. It's kind of one way to consider it is a way that we sort of are in relation to other people, other people that we're with, and or like things that just describe us, like adventurer, right? Mm-hmm. Things that are action based. And so we went about that good work last week of just separating that out and, really finding a true path towards looking at what our identity is over our emotion, right? Because we can carry those labels. We can carry, I'm a depressed person or I'm an anxious person, right? When in reality, you're not, right? You feel that way. You feel anxious or depressed. And so today we're going to talk about, because when we say that, we're going to talk about the difference between feelings and emotions, right? Because we use them interchangeably, rightfully so in different circumstances, but there's a distinction betwin them that we really wanted to share today.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. We're getting hellos. So glad you're joining us. Thanks, Bonnie. And I think just to clarify, this isn't me and Bonnie going, oh, it's so nice to not label ourselves anxious. Right? we'll keep coming back to science, right? We know anxiety is an emotion. All right. It shows up in our body as an emotion. So we're doing this good work as well as today, like understanding emotion versus feeling. Mm-hmm. And a big why behind that, we have a couple whys, but a big why behind that is for us to begin to notice how things show up, how emotions show up, right? How we feel them. And when we begin to identify that, which is a big part of step one in our program called Identify, when we begin to identify that and we see how that shows up, that's when we can start catching it and be like, oh, I know what this is, right? I know what this feeling is, that emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And now I have all of these tools to work with this feeling, to then work with this emotion, right? That isn't my identity. So now you're beginning to see kind of how it all comes together. And so we're breaking this down for information for the self, right? And for you to then begin to recognize when these things happen, right? This feeling doesn't have to lead to an identity because it isn't, right? But that's what we tend to do, right? So.
Yeah, 100%. The other thing too that we, I just sounded like Landon and Stapes. There was, there's these guys we listen to, and the one of them is always saying 100%, 100%.
All right. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So the other thing too is that we talked a little bit about this last week, but we have files, brain files for all of these different emotions, right? So we have the brain files for happy and joy and calm and peace. And we also have the brain files for depression and anxiety or sadness. And so, what we focus on, we get more of, right? And so this act of identifying is a way to bring our awareness and attention to the emotions so that we can be like, oh, okay, so here's anxiety. Yeah, I have tons of files for that I could pull down, right? But I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to use my tools to move through the emotion, right? It's not who I am. It's not who I am, right? And then start pulling down some other files, right? For peace or calm or patience, the files that we might really need that would be the most nurturing for us in those moments. So, I know that this is true for many of you, that sometimes when you wake up in the morning and your brain will go like straight to an anxious moment, anxious thought. And then and then you start feeling like, all right, here goes my anxious day again. I've had so many mornings like that. And so this is a way to just, again, use that discernment to just notice, be like, all right, I'm going to pull down some different files.
Right.
As best we can. Practice makes progress.
Yeah. And Bonnie, really what you're describing, to come from like my angle is a mindfulness component, so we're giving you these tools through your body, but as you begin to recognize them and separate yourself out from being them, this is a mindfulness concept, right? To not be identified by this, by your emotion or feeling in a moment, right? To separate yourself from that. So it's amazing. So we can learn from all these different angles, right? Some different concepts, but it's amazing what they all then kind of lead us towards, right? So if we're coming at it from the body, learning about anxiety, or coming at it from meditation or mindfulness or science, a lot of this points in the same direction, right? So as you work with one, it leads towards others. And I think that's why it's so beautiful to have all these different angles and techniques that I know Bonnie and I focus on a lot of similar things, but coming from different angles. Yeah. And so that you then gain, right, more insight, more tools, more strategies, right? If you're learning to separate out your emotion and feeling, you are working on a mindfulness aspect, right? So you're really feeding multiple parts of the body, which is awesome.
It's amazing. It's why we're here, bringing all of it together. It's so good. So before we dive into our exercise, I think I might just read this little definition that we found that resonated with us for sort of the difference between emotions and feelings, right? Because again, many of us, myself included, use them somewhat interchangeably, right? And if you're a parent, it's really interesting to utilize this information with your children as well, so that you can help them identify the emotion, name it, right? Give it a house that it lives in, and then talk about the feelings that really go along with it, or that are associated with it. So, let's see. Can you still hear me, Liz? You turned your mic off. That's right.
Okay. My heater's acting up.
Okay. The sound went for a second, I was like, oh no,
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Ladies, I have this 1925 steam heating system. Every once in a while, it's like, bang!
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
So it's great. So every once in a while, I'll mute if I hear it acting up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, just making sure you can still hear me. Yeah. Okay, so what we found that we really appreciated, again, that resonated with Liz and I, and I'll read it to you. It says, while emotions are associated with bodily reactions that are activated through neurotransmitters, right, all of the brain connections, right, and hormones released by the brain, Feelings are the conscious experience of those emotional reactions. So I'm going to read it one more time. While emotions are associated with bodily reactions that are activated through neurotransmitters and hormones that are released by the brain, feelings then are the conscious experience of those emotional reactions. Yeah.
Wait,
I love that.
That's a lot of big words. So we'll give that context. But yeah, or you can pop questions in the chat. But yes, I love that definition. I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, it's true. And it's just, when we have something come up, right, our nervous system reacts to it. And then there's that cascade of hormones, right, or just chemicals into your body, right, getting you into the different part of your nervous system that needs to react in that moment from whatever the situation is, right? And then because of all of that cascade of chemical in our body, then we end up really with experiencing a lot of physical feelings, right? Actual feelings. So that's kind of what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah. So let's break it down. Break it down.
Break it down.
We should stop before we start.
So good. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So just like last week, how you made 2 categories, right? And you made an identity category and an emotions category. Yay, you did your homework. Good job, Bonnie. I'm like, where did go after a week of stuff? I don't even have a pen. I'm with the ring a pen. But you're going to make 2 categories. Yes, we can, Kirsty. Happy to. We have 2 categories to work with today as well. So go ahead if you haven't gotten your journal and pen yet, like I haven't because I have my paper, but I forgot my pen. I'm going to go grab that, Bonnie. Yeah. But go ahead and grab the stuff and then write down, again, 2 columns. One label it emotions and one label it feelings. And I'm going to go grab a pen, Bones.
Yeah. Just going to add mine right on to the other side. So one labeled emotions and one labeled feelings. And again, emotions are things like anxiety or depression or sadness or happiness or patience, joy, gratitude, whatever it is that you want. And you can choose, if you'd like, 5 that you tend to experience, fairly frequently, fairly often, right?
I think that's what we'd like to do. So once you have those categories, I want you to take a moment, right? Think about a week, right? And like work with things are going to change. Like we're going to deal with grief more times in certain moments in our life than other times, right? But take like a span of a week in your life now, okay? And think of, you're not going to cover every single emotion you go through, but so just limit yourself to 5 of the most common emotions you notice within a week, right? The things that kind of pop into your head right away is like, oh, I definitely experience this emotion on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or often, right? So come up with 5. We'll give you a little time for that.
Your birds are the background today, Liz.
Are they?
Yeah, I can hear them. They're so sweet. I was like, oh, I should put music on. And I was like, I'm really liking listening to those birdies. It's spring, right? Happy spring for those of us that are in the States.
It is like 60 degrees here today. Yeah.
Yeah, so sweet. I know. Others of you are heading into a completely different season on the planet.
That's right. Yeah, it'd be really funny though, Bonds, if we wanted to keep that sound up and I instead just went like, tweet. Like at the beginning of winter when there's less birds.
You were the bird. Oh gosh. Cracking ourselves up today.
This is harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, I can share mine out, but remember
Mhm.
that it's like just something you will see. I was like, oh, maybe what else am I going to put on here?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's actually a good, honest assessment, kind of where your attention is focused. How
Yeah.
things are showing up.
Who wrote? I don't get. I don't. Is this Jackie? I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't show us the name, Jackie, if you don't hit the link. So, but the lovely that you have lots of birds.
Oh, sun is out and it's warm. Yay. Yeah, it's a beautiful day here today too.
Planted my greenhouses. Okay. That's awesome. I'm getting distracted. I'm like, oh yeah, what'd you plant? I want to know. Ooh. And as you come up with your emotions, feel free to share one or, five or none, but you can share out which ones kind of show up for you the most within a week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is Jackie. Hi, Jackie.
Okay.
Yay.
That we know.
Oh, and birds and snow. So good.
Oh, joy. Lucky.
Yeah.
Everyone knows I'm a big snow fan.
Mm.
Anxiety, sadness, depression, confusion, and joy. Thank you, Kirsty.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much of our lists are going to be very similar in general. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How you doing, Bonds?
Good. Yep. I'm
Okay.
good to go. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So do you want to share? Do you want to go kind of into the feelings and break down three? Remember we talked about three breaking down.
Yeah. Lonely is one, Simone. Yes.
Yeah. Loneliness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Anxiety, sadness, depression, grief, and worry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is such a good practice. Yeah, so we're going to just focus on choose three that you'd kind of like to dive into in this moment, knowing that you can come back and dive into the other ones at any point, or, go just deeper into other emotions that are coming up for you. And we're really going to just kind of step into them for a minute, so anxiety, of course, is one that's on mine. And the point here is not to like experience anxiety in your body in this moment. It's just to think about anxiety when it shows up for you and it arrives, right? How does it feel physically in your body, right? What happens, sort of symptomatically, right? What are the feelings that you're having in your body when anxiety presents or when any one of these emotions that you choose comes up? Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I want to, highlight, as Bonnie and I were talking through this, we realized we have some similar, but we have some very different ways of responding to our anxiety. And sometimes you might not know, right? So, you can take a moment, even close your eyes and kind of just, we don't want to say like take yourself to an anxious space, but just try to connect with what you've noticed you felt in that moment, right? Try to hone in on anxiety, right? Not that it's not thread with other emotions, right? But come up with the physical feelings. Like, so we'll give you an example. Bonds, you want to share what you typically experience?
Yeah. So for me, my list is like tingling. I get a little bit of a racing heart. My palms will get kind of sweaty. Sometimes I'll feel a little bit like lightheaded, a little woozy. So those for me are the feelings that are associated with my anxiety coming up, how it presents itself when it arrives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I experience a lot up here. Like I definitely feel the racing heart, but I get into extreme tunnel vision.
Right.
Right. Like I feel like I've mentioned flailing a couple times and I just feel like I get, like my head's bubbling over. Like it's like boiling hot water in my head and then my heart races. Right. So, knowing that, then it's interesting what strategies, and we can talk about that later, but the strategies I've chosen to work with my feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Which then help with my anxiety. Now you're starting to realize why we're doing this. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And without this awareness, right, because sometimes we were talking about this yesterday a bit, Liz, too, of, when the feelings arrive, we haven't necessarily identified the emotion yet, like what's coming up, right? But as we become more familiar with how these different emotions present themselves in our body, then we can do what we can to help bring ourselves back into a place of ease. So yeah. So choose a couple few, and we'll just give you another minute to kind of write how these feel in your body. Even the positive, the quote unquote positive emotions that you have on your list. Again, because I think on another token, we we don't tend to sort of share out when we're in like those joyous spaces or loving spaces as much as we do when we're in like I just had like a really rough, anxious day, right? Mm-hmm. And so really, as a person who experiences anxiety, I think sometimes we can fall into the trap of just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Like, I feel happy for this moment. When am I going to feel crummy again? And so we're never fully in joy, right? If that makes sense, or calm or gratitude, right? And so, again, kind of leaning into another one of the strategies in our program of right now, bringing ourselves back to the present moment and allowing ourselves the opportunity and honor of experiencing the things that are on the other side of the coin, sort of in our mind's eye from anxiety. So,
yeah. And if you don't have any positives in your 5, it's okay. We'll talk about that next. So leave that be, but just take those 3, and break down as much as you can of how it shows up in the body. Okay. Like from, noticing in a certain organ to like a temperature change, to your heart, right, to your breath. To where like your vision or mind goes, right? Or where it feels like it goes, right? So just break down if up to 3 of any of your 5, right, into some feelings. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I hear that, Denise. Yeah. Denise, I wonder if you can break down also exhaustion, like where you most feel your exhaustion, right? Do you feel it in the body? Do you feel it in the mind? What do you feel, in terms of exhaustion? I know that, right, I can be really mentally exhausted and I can be really physically exhausted. And of course, they're connected, right? Like my mental exhaustion allows me to feel it in my body, but I can definitely feel the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. So if you can break that down a little bit for yourself, that'll be really good information for you for how exhaustion shows up in your body. Right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that like close my eyes to get myself to some of these.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I've been doing it as I've been kind of writing, like, mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I can really feel it. Mm-hmm. It's funny, I'm having a hard time writing some of my feeling words in words that are not emotion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I'm catching myself, even though I know.
Me too. So
even though I know the difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's such good practice.
It is, yeah. Let's see.
So Denise said her body feels exhausted.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's interesting, Simone. Everything is so connected. I was just sharing, Bonnie, I've been watching a lot of Dr. Mark Hyman. He's got I'll share later on this week this podcast I was listening to. But he talks, in my opinion, very brilliantly about how everything's so connected, right? So when you're like one part of your system, he kind of breaks it down into 7 areas. But if your digestive system is taking a hit, like something else is happening, right? So it's amazing how much we can affect by even taking the health and focus on one area, how it like kind of works like a domino effect, right? And sometimes we have to get to the depending on what's going on for somebody, right? We have to get to the like the base of the heart of the issue, right? And that's what doctors are for. Good doctors are for, but it's amazing how when you start to heal one aspect, how it has this like domino effect throughout the body, right? So your digestion, your dehydration, that's all related. That's all going to affect your energy and vice versa, right? Which is hard. It also, and I like to try to look at it this way, is empowering, right? So, if you can and this is the way I think Bonnie and I tend to look at our anxiety, right?
Yeah.
We know as we can work with one thing, it's only going to uplift and support all these other systems.
Yeah.
So I love that thinking that like when I take a breath, I'm actually feeding the inside of my body, this like quality nourishment,
Yeah.
And it's real. It's not like, it's not made up or woo-woo, we know what it's physically doing to the body, and also, then affecting, like we're talking about, our emotions and then our brain chemicals. So it is interesting to but that's why it's great to notice these things, notice the details, because that's then how we begin to know the actions to take. And I think we want so quick, it's in our culture to just have an action, have a response, have a fix, but if we don't take charge of our own bodies and really know where it's coming from or what's showing up, right, it's really hard to actually treat it the right way, I think,
And I think, again, today is about using this as information, right? Seeing your feelings as information to inform, and name the emotion so that you can move forward with discerning it from your identity, right? And also supporting your nervous system at the same time. So
exactly.
Yeah. So good.
So feel free to share out, Bonds. I don't know if you're willing to share, one of your 3, but just some of the feelings that showed up for any emotion.
Yeah. So I'll go with one of mine. So I had anxiety, which I wrote, scattered. I get really kind of scattered feeling when I get really anxious, lightheaded, tingling, sweaty palms, racing heart, all of those things. Another one of mine was love. And when I'm in love, I was like, oh, how do I describe it? I feel like I have like a physically full heart, warm and fuzzy and activated, I feel like it's a really active emotion for me in that way. Whereas gratitude, I was another one that I chose also, but it shows up in such a different way for me than love. It's more of a mellowness and awareness, right? But love, just I get like this, kind of feeling. And gratitude is such a different one. So those were the 3 that I chose. How about you, Liz? Did you want to share out?
Yeah, I had I've worked with this emotion more recently than I have in the past, but I had regret as one of mine. And the way this is the one I had to really close my eyes to. I feel really heavy in my body and slow. And I feel like I'm just, it's interesting because we know from a movement perspective, when we're sit in the past, we're kind of more in our heels. And I don't feel like that I'm necessarily in my heels, but I feel like I don't know how to move forward. I feel very stuck,
Interesting.
And that I'm retreating, that my body's retreating. That's the way it kind of shows up in my body.
Yeah.
And then I had joy. And of course I immediately think of my nieces and spending time with them. And when I'm living in a state of joy, I definitely I feel my body so much in the now, with everything right in front of me. I feel really light. I feel I feel like I have just a really high lung capacity, like my breath.
Mm.
And I feel very expansive. Like I can see wide, which is interesting because I know that anxiety does the opposite for me. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. So as you're sort of sitting with these, feel free to share out and let us know, what some of the things that really are coming up. Tiredness for sure, and sort of how you feel tired in your body. So this, to me, the whole strategy of Identify, our first strategy in the program, is all about sort of digging under the layers, right? So you might have a few words written down that you have as feelings, and you might need to lift it up and dig underneath that even a little bit more to really dial down into, okay, so tiredness, and then how does that feel in your body? Is it heavy eyelids? Do your nerves feel frazzled? Is it hard to move? Like those kinds of things, right? So continue to just dig down underneath whatever you have until you feel like you've found the core of what that actual feeling in your body is.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. And
layers.
So like Bonnie was talking about, continue to work on this, to the level of your interests, but go back and look at your 5 emotions and see how many you would label as positive versus ones that you feel like you struggle with. Right. Because I look at my list and I have 1, and some of you might have none, and so I think, one thing we wanted to highlight is, and this is common for every human being on this planet, is that when we're in states, when we're in states of like love and joy, our mind, right, from a mind, we don't tend to go, oh, I'm experiencing joy right now. That's so great. I'm so aware that I'm in love. I'm so aware that I'm at peace, right? Like all these, we don't tend to notice those. But when we're going through the anxiety, the depression, the regret, the heaviness, right? We note those often, right? And so therefore, what we're doing in our brain is we're building a relationship with those emotions, right? The more we give attention to, the more we then emote and feel. And then that's what leads to us identifying with them. Even though on a daily basis, you probably go through a world of emotions, right? But what's amazing about practicing mindfulness, right, is that you'll note and notice when you're having a moment of joy. And it's the noticing that even if it's a 30-second moment within your day, the fact that you notice it tells your brain that it's possible, right? And also tells your brain that you enjoy it, right? And so that's where that like chemical stimulation's then happening. So it's really important for us to work on being mindful in this aspect, so we can say, oh, okay, like my life, even though I notice these emotions a lot more, like I'm going to work on also noticing these emotions, right? Because they happen within your life. They might happen a lot less, or you might not notice how much they happen, but they do. And so it's our work to try to retrain by acknowledging those things, right? And that's hard to do, especially if you don't have a regular practice of noticing those. So
another great opportunity here is, if you're noticing exactly as Liz is describing here, that your positive labeled emotions aren't ones that you necessarily have on your list of things that you are really identifying with a lot. Create some opportunity for those things to happen, right? So this week, be really intentional about just finding something that you love to do that brings you joy. I know in COVID times it can be hard, right? But there's always ways that we can get creative. And Liz and I really love to get creative. So if you're like, oh, I love to do this thing, but I can't because of COVID, pop it in the chat and we'll try to help you think of an alternate solution, right? Like I love to host these dance nights for women in my community. And of course, I haven't been able to do that at all in a long, long time. And I miss that so much. But I just really nurture creating my own dance parties for myself, because I just love how it feels to dance, right? Or maybe putting together a Zoom dance night or something like that would be just an alternative. So, because once we do that, then we have another file for joy, right? And so when we're having an anxious moment, we can say like, okay, I have this awareness. Here's this emotion. This is how my body's feeling, and I'm going to pull down this file, right, for joy. And I'm going to really start thinking about that and feeling how that felt in my body when I was in that joyful place, so that your mind starts sort of attaching. It's like the ruts driving in the back of your yard, right? The more you drive in one spot, those ruts get a little bit deeper. Doesn't mean that you can't get out of them and create new pathways. That's what's so amazing about the neuroscience now, is that we know that we can create new pathways in the brain, and it's happening all the time. So this is just a process of really helping you to get there in a really mind, body, heart kind of way. So, and all of the strategies that we teach every single week really work to help support you when you are in these spaces, right? And we've been talking a lot about the ease keys, but Liz and I are both learning a ton about the polyvagal nervous system or triune nervous system, and how incredibly powerful and impactful the different ease keys are, right? And there are different breath and postural practices that you can use to help bring your nervous system back into a place of ease quickly. It's why I recommend heart math so much, because heart math is such a powerful strategy for that awareness and bringing your heart and brain connection back into a place of coherence and ease, so that impacts your entire nervous system coming back into a place of ease. So
absolutely. And like that's a perfect example of like, working joy into the system, because heart math does do that. And so does like, if people are interested in meditation, you can look up loving kindness meditations, as I think are really a really good way that like the loving kindness mantra is easier for people to bring into their bodies. And it's practicing offering something to you into the world, which both offer something to you. Right. And, so do some meditation, join my live sessions in the morning, as I mentioned in the group, we practice different forms of really, bringing that attention to joy and mindfulness moments. And even if you don't have the capacity to like find these big ways to have joy, like, I want to instill that you can do these in small little moments. And what's like running water, like find things that you love to like drink or touch or feel, and just take, like, I'm a big water person, right? I love waterfalls, are one of my favorite things. I love cold water, especially. I know I'm a little bit weird. I like the snow. I like cold. And I've been like doing some polar dipping lately and like spending time in cold water. You don't have to do that. But even if you like water, like put your hands underneath water and like close your eyes and feel the way the water like falls over your hands, right? And then when you're doing that, take a moment to go, like I am spending this moment like joyfully and, enjoying this water, right? Because you're both doing the action and noticing that you're doing the action, right? And that's like a double whammy of benefits to your brain, right? So you can find, like, as Bonnie was talking, I noticed like this like squirrel outside, and I was like, I should watch squirrels more. They're so funny, So there's like little things.
I'm gonna put a good video in the chat for you, Liz.
All right, awesome.
So good.
Write it down. Don't forget.
Oh, I'm gonna find it.
So and so there's like little mindful actions you can do that, and for the purpose of training your brain. And the cool thing about this stuff, y'all, is that the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more you do it, like the more benefits it has, right? Unlike a lot of other things we do to our body, right? So it only gets easier, and you start to notice and feel the difference, right? So that's why I am such a proponent for a daily practice, even if it's a 5-minute daily practice of something that you enjoy or like or can be mindful about, right? And I know Bonnie's the same, but
yeah, it's true. Me and a cup of tea, like that's all. That's pretty much what I need in my day. If I can just like hold the warm cup of tea and like just breathe it in, that's like my 5 minutes of just pure bliss right there.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's such a good point, Liz, that it doesn't need to be some big grandiose thing that's bringing you joy, that it can really literally just be something so small. Yeah.
So let's end with a little joyful breathing. What do you think, Bonds?
Love it. I love that idea.
Okay. So even if joy wasn't on your list, we're going to experience joy together now as a community. Okay. So just find a seat, a comfortable seat. I say this over and over again in my classes, one that allows you to sit long and tall, but within comfort. And then allow your arms to fall, and we'll allow our eyes to fall together too. And they can be closed or just lowered, up to you. And as you find yourself here, as you join us, just find something that you can notice that feels so lovely about sitting here in this community with your eyes closed. The sounds coming from your home, from mine, from Bonnie's. The care and love and authenticity that's in this group. And let's take a long inhale and just draw that joy, that awareness right into your body as you breathe here. And as you exhale, allow your shoulders to sink a little deeper towards the ground. And as you continue to breathe, open up your awareness to the space around you. So wherever it is that you are, wherever it is that you sit, even with your eyes closed, you can sense the items, the space. Maybe you can even sense, because you know what colors exist. And take a moment for just the realization that even with your eyes closed, you can see light upon your eyelids, this light that exists in this space. What is lovely about this light, about this quality? And can you allow the light to grace your eyes as though it's a gentle, soft kiss upon your eyelids? And take a long inhale and a long exhale. And as you continue to breathe, look up into your mind. And imagine that you see your mind smiling. Your mind smiling as if to accept all thoughts that come and go. Your mind's smiling because it knows that you are so very human. Your mind's smiling because in this moment you've chosen to be here and present in this community, in this space. Your mind's smiling because you know that these things are important to your head, to your heart, to your body. And again, taking a long breath, watching your mind smile, continue to smile. Notice what that does for your body. And for just a moment, for just one more breath, allow your awareness to be louder than your thoughts. And feel that smile travel down to your heart. And lift your heart as if it's trying to reach the sky, the sun a little more. And that smile filling your lungs, filling your breath. Let's together as a community draw our hands together in a little bit of a prayer pose. Let's inhale here and then exhale. Just allow your forehead to come to your fingers or close to your fingers and just let your head hang. And with this beautiful long stretch in your neck, just take a long inhale here again. And as you exhale, just release the hold and you can slowly open your eyes and lift your head.
Oh, yay. Every week I'm like, oh, it's the best.
And then we're like,
I know. Yeah, exactly. What? Oh, so happy to just have all of you here with us today. Again, let us know always kind of how this is landing for you. And if you need any, assistance with moving through these different phases from identity to emotions and feelings, to reach out and also know that you are in an incredibly loving and kind, thoughtful community. And that, if you have questions about something, it's likely that someone else does as well. So if you're comfortable to really get in and share out with the group and be with these other incredible just humans, to just really work to help each other in the ways that you do, that we see all the time. We so appreciate that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good reminder, Bonds.
Yeah. And we'll be so excited to see you back next Monday,
Right.
8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, same time as today. So for your time zone, I know that time's shifting. There's all kinds of, daylight savings times happening. So just be mindful of that. Know that our time will not change for a while. So yeah. Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay,
Have
bye,
a good
friends.
day. Bye.